I feel I've been a bit oversold from the introduction. I'm just a person that talks a lot. As I'm not Finnish, I talk a lot and I have a quiet team, so they get to listen to me a lot. So normally I talk about fairly technical topics, event sourcing, architecture, feature toggles, trying to get people to be enthusiastic about the things I find interesting. So when Arado asked me if I wanted to talk again, I said, sure. These are the subjects I've got. I've already done a lightning talk on strong typing, for instance. And after a while, Mika came back and was like, how do you feel about talking about streaming that you've been doing? I was like, okay, might as well. So this is my talk on streaming software development on Twitch. I started maybe a month ago. Have absolutely no idea how to stream anything. It's been an interesting roller coaster of technical failures and streaming to myself for 2 hours one evening because I had an error with the streaming software or Twitch or something, so that was fun. There's some really nice advantages to it. It really helps you focus. And there's another, I don't know, it's weird because you end up talking, you have to keep talking about what you're doing. So if you're going to go for software interviews and they make you talk through an implementation of something, this is great practice because you get used to just speaking. So I started doing this, but I want to take a step back and find out why I started streaming on Twitch, because why would you want to stream development? I mean, I watch people play video games, but that's fairly easy to watch. Why would you want to watch someone failing to type correctly on a keyboard? Because you can never type correctly when someone's watching you. Now try with several people watching you. It gets worse. But when someone wants to do something, no matter what it is, software development or learning to ride a bike or skateboard or something, they go through the same rough set of steps. The first one is to start doing the thing. Then there's some intermediate steps, and then profit. That's basically everything you do in life summed up. Profit could be defined as monetary or learning a skill or anything. So that's the normal steps. But I'm not that organized. In fact, I'm anti-organization. I got started because I saw an article on Reddit by a lady called Suze Hinton. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't actually know. She streams Node.js development on Raspberry Pis and other pieces of hardware, which sounds like a recipe for pain for me. I like JavaScript on some level and hate it on others, and adding hardware into the mix just sounds like a world of pain, but she seems to enjoy doing it. And so she wrote this article about what she'd done and how the experiences were, and I thought, that sounds kind of fun. The streaming part, not the JavaScript. JavaScript is never fun. So I decided to go through the three steps. Step one was really easy. Start streaming. Install OBS, which is the open broadcasting system. Configure it, fail at that a few times, and then just start typing. Step two, not really sure about what that is. And I also have no idea what step three is either. I don't really have an end goal. I'm just doing it because it's kind of fun. And I'm having fun, and that's half the point. Why do something if you're not enjoying it? Although, if you're paid, then keep doing it. So after the first couple of streams, which are just me fixing random things in the 4 billion open source projects I have that I keep on GitHub because no one reads them anyway, so I might as well keep them there, I decided it'd be quite nice to have a project to try and follow through the entire thing, streamed only. The only downside to this was, of course, that stream where I streamed to myself for an entire evening because of an error. So those commits I had to just recap the next day. So my project I decided to do was a RESTful feature toggling service. This picture is related. Feature toggling, one of the things you can do with it is canary releases. And while I didn't own a canary as a child, we did own a cockatiel. It was called Crispin. Hence the name of the project being called Crispin. It's really tenuous, but I needed a name, and why not have a nice name rather than feature toggler? So that's related. That's the project I'm running through. It's been quite interesting doing a project in front of people. There's been a lot of positive effects. The first one involves this. Now, how many people have heard the phrase rubber ducking? Most people. So for those that don't know the phrase, it's like when you have a problem, rather than bothering a coworker, you go and pick up a rubber duck, probably not one this size, it might not fit in your office. Pick up a duck and explain the problem to the duck. And by vocalizing the problem, you have to actually speak out loud as well. So find a meeting room so you don't look completely insane. But speak the problem out loud, and you'll probably find that you already know the answer to the problem. And it's because you're engaging different parts of your brain. Thinking is not quite the same as speaking out loud. You can try doing it internally, but it doesn't always work. So as you're constantly talking while streaming, you are constantly rubber ducking the whole thing. So you're constantly thinking of what the answer is and trying to put your thoughts into a coherent way so that people can understand you. So yeah, this has been great. The next one, as this is tenuously demonstrating, is concentration. Tennis players, when you photograph them really close, look like they're practicing telekinetic powers on balls instead. But this is tennis players concentrating. I have this great problem that, although I love development, I sit down to do something and I go, could really do with, polishing that surface. Or that vacuum needs doing. Or I'll just browse Imgur for the next 10 hours. When you stream, you can't do that. You start streaming, and you need to stream for a reasonable amount of time. So I sit there, and I focus, and I work. And if you look at my that green dotty graph thing on GitHub of your activity heat graph, that graph you can see when I started streaming, because the number of commits I do has gone through the roof, because I'm actually sitting down and doing work. So yeah, that's been amazing. A side benefit, this by the way is the Doctor Who spectrum, shows all the timelines of the different doctors, is timing. I now actually know how long it takes me to implement something. I can go back and look at my videos and go, I thought that implementing a controller and 3 methods would take half an hour, and it took me 2 hours because of this, this, and this. And the next time I did it, it only took me 1 hour because I didn't hit this problem. I already knew the solution. So I'm actually getting proper feedback of how long stuff takes. So I know, I'm always optimistic in how quickly I can do something. But now I actually know, and I can go back and look, and I can prove it if someone ever questions it. Not that they will. But. So that's been a side benefit that I didn't expect. The final benefit has been Twitch chat. Now, I didn't expect to have anyone watching for the first forever. And I've had a few viewers most evenings. And when you get stuck, sometimes they actually help. So I was trying to overload an operator in C#, and I can never remember the syntax for this. I know it involves the word static somewhere, and I know that instead of a method name, you put the operator in front of the brackets. But I can never remember more than that. So I was about to Google it, and someone pasted it into Twitch chat, and they were like, oh, I have a macro in Visual Studio, because I always forget this. Oh, great, so I'll use that. Last night, I implemented a delete method on one of my controllers that took in a string array of tags to remove off a feature toggle. And wrote tests for it, and it all worked fine, and then I tried to test it in Rider's test client, and I couldn't send a request body with it. Turns out the reason you can't send a request body with a delete request is because that's not a valid thing to do. So I now need to go and rewrite how my delete method works. And I came up with 2 pretty terrible ideas, which I didn't like, of how to do it. Like, I can take a dictionary in and have name of tag true to add it, false to remove it. That's not very discoverable. Or I could do a dictionary with an add key, and that can be an array of strings, and a remove, and that can be a... And then someone else in the chat was like, why not just post all the tags you want to be on the toggle, and then just remove ones that are not in that list and add ones that are new? Oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And anyway, from a UI perspective, you're going to query the toggle first. So you've now got the list of tags. Yeah, that makes sense. So I implemented that. I'd have got there eventually, I hope. But because someone mentioned it in chat, it was much quicker. It's like having a team working with you, but they're not really invested in the project. So they give you quite honest feedback. Not that my team gives me dishonest feedback, I hope. I mean, I've since thought of another way of doing it, which I prefer, but as I'm using mediation, I might just do both. I don't know. There is a slight downside to the Twitch chat. Potentially bots advertising, well, usually porn. I've had one, but as there was no one else in my Twitch chat at the time, the bot arrived. They said hi. I said vocally hi in Twitch chat, and then they left because no one was typing back to them. So I didn't even have to ban anyone. It was great. You get a lot of the same questions. What are you building? This is great. I can give a great explanation, I hope. But I don't want to keep having to give the same explanation. So I implemented a Twitch chat command. There is a couple of web services you can use that make you get a moderator in your channel. So if a user types in !what, they get a little description of what I'm making. I might expand for other ones later. Do you like Rider? Because I'm developing in Rider rather than Visual Studio. Yes, I do. Presentation mode is great because it means the text is huge and people can see it without having to maximize their screen. It is early access software, so it does break periodically. Why aren't you using Visual Studio? Or what theme is that for Visual Studio? It's not. Because I'm a hipster, mostly. And Rider is faster, and my laptop tries to take off when I stream anyway, so anything that brings the CPU usage down a little bit is a help. Do you like .NET Core? Complicated question. Ish, yes, a bit, mostly. It's got some rough edges. Like when it randomly forgets that you're making a net standard package and just goes, I can't find exception, it's not defined. Delete everything, restore all packages, then it starts working again. And the last one of, why do you use a Finnish keyboard if you complain about it so much? Usually followed by, I live in Finland. So, you know, there's Finnish keyboards everywhere, so I figured I might as well learn to use one. Incidentally, this is what a keyboard should look like. You'll note that there is, in the red, a key with braces on it. You don't have to do Alt-GR gymnastics to type braces. I've never used the Alt-GR key, really, until moving to Finland. I'm not a fan, it has to be said. There is one key that you do need Alt-GR for on a British English keyboard, and that's the Euro symbol. But as Britain's going to disconnect its internet cable and float off into the Atlantic, they won't be typing that anyway, so no need for Alt-GR at all. Hopefully, I'll still be here when they float off. But yeah, so that's my experience of streaming. It's been fun. I'm enjoying it. I don't know why I'm doing it, to be honest. But yeah, feel free to come and watch me. I stream most evenings. There's some links at the bottom there. Feel free to ask any questions. Especially like what that parrot is doing.
So any questions?
Yeah. Have you tried mob programming ever?
No, but Miko keeps suggesting it at work. So hopefully we're going to try it at some point.
Okay.
But no, I've not actually had any experience of it, but I have read about it.
Because this kind of gives you maybe some same kind of benefits that it would. Because you have the audience, you need to focus and you have some feedback from them.
Yeah, I suppose the advantage of mob programming is they're actually there as well and can get your attention. Whereas sometimes if I'm focused on doing something, I forget that there's a Twitch chat box that I could be watching. But on the plus side with Twitch chat, if I don't want to do what they're saying, I can just ignore them. Whereas if people are physically there, they can like push you off the keyboard. Yeah, I don't know. I want to try mob programming at some point. Not yet.
The virtual keyboard and a bunch of streamers, maybe.
Yeah, and I also found out there's a magic keyboard shortcut. So you can use Windows key space to change your keyboard language. But you can also use Alt-Shift, and I didn't know about Alt-Shift, and something randomly changes my keyboard layout to Finnish, because I have that installed in case I need to type your weird characters. And just sometimes, yeah, and then my fingers do muscle memory. And so yeah, the keyboard thing is the hardest part about streaming, I swear.
Yeah.
So if you're used to a Finnish keyboard, it's fine. Come on, join, compete with me. Yo.
Have you thought about like writing a blog at the same time as you're working on a new project? Just thinking you could sort of align the steps you are making in the stream to post and in that way get more viewers.
What, you think people read my blog? Yeah, I've considered writing about this and other projects that I've got. I mean, I've got other ones that are actually, well, I know they're used by at least 2 companies because I worked for both of them and they didn't have a choice in the matter. So I've got projects that are used, but I could blog about them, but I find sitting down to blog very difficult. I have ideas and I write them out, but I don't quite finish the post. And while I think that streaming gives me that concentration thing, I'm not sure if I can concentrate on writing something while talking. So yes, it's a good idea to blog it, but at the same time, I'm not very good at it. I don't blog very often because, again, motivation. Need to actually work out how to concentrate. Maybe more or less coffee would help.
Either.
Yeah.
I was also kind of concerned about the efficiency factor. So you probably shouldn't tell your boss that you're sort of streaming. He's going to check out GitHub and, hey, Andy has been really productive, like within 3 hours, and then he looks at.
Why doesn't he look like? Why doesn't he do any work at work? It's because he's recovering from streaming. Yeah, unfortunately, he does know. He's retweeted one of my streaming tweets before. So yeah, I don't know. It's different at work because you have to actually talk to business people or work through requirements. I'm writing my own project. I come up with my own requirements as I feel like it. And I'm pre 1.0 anyway, so I can make any breaking change I feel like. So, yeah.
Right, there's nothing more. Let's move on to the next speaker, and one more time.